Let's be real. Have you ever felt like you've spent your entire life chasing goals that maybe aren't even yours? You work hard, achieve, build, but deep down something feels off. What if I told you Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, said your first 40 years were just practice? I know, sounds crazy, right? But stay with me, because this could change how you see everything you've done so far. This isn't failure, it's research. A necessary phase to discover who you are without the world's expectations. The great myth, why you haven't found yourself yet. Let's be real. Have you ever felt like you've spent your entire life just chasing goals that maybe aren't even yours? You work hard, chase achievements, build relationships, and everything seems perfect. But deep down, something feels off. What if I told you that Carl Jung, the famous psychologist, said your first 40 years were just practice? I know, sounds crazy, right? But stay with me, because this could change how you see everything you've done so far. What's the one thing you've always been told? Figure it out early. From the moment you could walk, the pressure began. What do you want to be when you grow up? They'd ask, as if a 5-year-old should already have a life plan. Then came the endless milestones: grades, tests, diplomas, degrees, internships, first jobs, promotions, mortgages, marriage. By the time you're 30, society expects you to have it all. And if you don't, you feel like you're behind, like you've somehow failed. But here's the truth no one talks about. Even those who did check every box, the degree, the career, the perfect partner, the shiny apartment, often lie awake at night wondering, why does it still feel empty? Carl Jung understood this better than anyone. He watched people move through life like actors on a stage, smiling, hustling, achieving, while secretly haunted by questions they couldn't even name. He saw a society obsessed with the surface, the job title, the car, the number in the bank account. But behind it all was a silent question. Is this it? You see, society sells us a myth. It tells us your 20s and 30s are your prime, that if you haven't made it by 35, your chance is past, that if you're not married, you're broken, that if your dream career hasn't materialized, you should settle. And so we panic. We rush. We compete. We compare. We lie to ourselves. We suppress that inner whisper that says, this doesn't feel right. Because if we listen to it, we'd have to confront something terrifying, the idea that maybe we built our lives on someone else's blueprint. We don't want to admit that we've been chasing goals that weren't truly ours. We don't want to look in the mirror and see a mask staring back. But Jung invites us to do exactly that. He tells us that this frantic sprint through youth isn't failure, it's research. A necessary part of human development, a phase where we learn, adapt, survive, and test out identities. Not to find the one that fits perfectly, but to discover which ones don't. He calls this time the first half of life, and says its purpose is to construct a persona, a social mask that allows you to function in the world. And while that mask is useful, even vital, it is not your true self. Still, for decades we cling to it. We perform. We pretend. We hope that external validation will one day fill the inner void. But deep down, a quiet question begins to echo. Who am I without all of this? And that's where the shift begins. Subtle at first, a sense that maybe, just maybe, there's more to life than what you've been told. It's not a breakdown. It's a breakthrough waiting to happen. And it begins around the age of 40. Your persona. The first 40 years of research. Before you turned 40, your life was a blur of building. You built a career. You built relationships. You built a version of yourself that could survive in a world full of expectations. And that version? Carl Jung called it the persona. It's the face you show to the world, crafted, polished, socially acceptable, a mask designed to help you function, fit in, and succeed. But here's what most people never realize. It's not you.
It's who you needed to be to get by.
And this is where Jung offers a radical insight. Your first 40 years weren't a mistake. They were your research. That mask, it didn't come out of nowhere. You built it from scratch. Every interaction, every rejection, every piece of praise, they were data points you absorbed. Your parents' hopes, your teacher's rules, your culture's definition of success.
And then you shaped yourself to match.
But let's be clear, this wasn't weakness. it was survival. You learned what was rewarded and what was punished. You learned how to play the game, how to avoid rejection, disappointment, vulnerability. And you probably got pretty damn good at it. Yet it never quite felt whole, did it? Because while the persona helps you adapt, it also filters you. It hides the uncomfortable parts, your fears, your desires, your dreams that didn't fit the mold. You learn to silence them, to tuck them away where no one could see. The result? A life that looks successful on the outside, but feels hollow on the inside. And then one day, without warning, that old strategy stops working. The career doesn't satisfy. The roles you've played, the loyal employee, the good parent, the ambitious achiever, start to feel tight, like clothing a size too small. You look in the mirror, and the face looking back is unfamiliar. This is the moment Jung was pointing to. He believed that the first half of life, this research phase, is meant to give you the raw material, experiences, mistakes, victories, heartbreaks. It's not about finding the truth. It's about collecting everything you need to eventually find it. It's like gathering puzzle pieces. But here's the twist. The puzzle isn't complete without the parts you've been hiding. That's why midlife feels so disorienting. The rules change, the mask slips, and suddenly you're not sure who you are anymore. But that's not a crisis. It's an invitation. An invitation to stop performing and start integrating. To take all that research and begin building something real, not for others, but for you. The first half of life was necessary. It taught you how the world works. Now, the second half asks, what will you do with what you've learned? The Midlife Crossroads, an invitation to authenticity. There comes a moment, often quiet and unannounced, when the life you've carefully built starts to feel off. Not wrong, exactly, just disconnected. Maybe it's in the middle of a work meeting where everyone is smiling and nodding, and you suddenly wonder, what am I even doing here? Or during a dinner with old friends, when the laughter feels like it belongs to someone else's story. Or on a quiet drive home when the silence feels louder than ever before. This is what Jung called the midlife crossroads. It's not always dramatic. It doesn't have to involve quitting your job, ending a relationship, or moving to the mountains, though for some it might. Often it's more subtle, a shift in the soul. You look around at the life you've spent decades constructing, and instead of pride, you feel a strange emptiness, like you've been climbing a ladder that's leaned against the wrong wall. And the scariest part? You're not sure what to do next. That's because this isn't just a decision about your job or your goals. It's a decision about who you are becoming. Up until now, the world told you what mattered. Now, your inner world starts to speak, and it's not always polite. It whispers questions that are hard to answer. Do I still believe in this? Have I become someone I don't recognize? What part of me have I left behind in order to be accepted? These questions aren't a sign of failure. They're the beginning of awakening. You're standing at a crossroads, between the persona and the self, between performance and authenticity, between the life you've been told to want and the life you secretly long for. And here's the thing Jung understood deeply. Most people never cross over. They feel the discomfort, and they run from it. They buy a new car, start a new project, numb out with distractions, recommit to the old path hoping it will finally feel right. But you're still listening. That means something inside you is ready. Jung believed that this midlife moment isn't about adding more to your life, more goals, more pressure, more noise. It's about peeling things away. It's about looking at everything you've accumulated, beliefs, habits, roles, identities, and asking, is this still true for me? You might find that the ambitions that once drove you now leave you cold, that the relationships you've maintained no longer feel nourishing, that the voice you've always obeyed, the one telling you to achieve, to please, to perform, no longer speaks for who you are. It's not easy letting go, never is. But here in the quiet discomfort of midlife is where something extraordinary can begin. This isn't the end. It's the point where the real journey begins. Not a journey to prove yourself, but to meet yourself. And once you step forward, there's no going back, only going deeper. Confronting the shadow, your uninvited teacher. There's a part of you you've spent most of your life avoiding. It's not the version you post on social media. It's not the one you bring to job interviews. It's not even the one your closest friends fully see. It's the part you've buried, sometimes so deeply you've forgotten it exists. Carl Jung called it the shadow. The shadow is everything you've rejected, denied, or disowned about yourself. Your insecurities, your anger, your envy, your repressed desires, even your unlived dreams. Not because they were evil or wrong, but because somewhere along the way, someone taught you they were unacceptable. So you locked them away. You learned early what was praised and what was punished. You adapted. You performed. And you built a version of yourself that would be loved, accepted, and approved. But here's the catch. What you hide doesn't disappear. It waits in the background, in the quiet. It shows up when you're triggered, exhausted, alone. It sneaks out in your reactions, in the way you lash out, withdraw, sabotage, or shame yourself. You might think you've been in control all these years, but what if it's the part you've been ignoring that's been quietly driving the car? Jung didn't see the shadow as evil. He saw it as essential, not something to be destroyed, but integrated. Because hidden within your shadow isn't just darkness. There's power. There's truth. There's wholeness. The shadow contains the passions you were too afraid to pursue, the instincts you were told to silence, the dreams you dismissed because they didn't fit the mold. And most importantly, it holds the key to becoming fully yourself. You cannot be whole without confronting it. You cannot heal without feeling what you've tried not to feel. This is the terrifying gift of midlife. When the mask of the persona begins to crack, the shadow begins to speak loudly. It will show up as restlessness, as self-doubt, as a gnawing sense that something is missing. Not because you're broken, but because you're finally ready. Ready to face the parts of you you've outgrown. Ready to mourn the life you built on someone else's expectations. Ready to reclaim the pieces of your identity you once gave away just to belong. But be warned, this isn't a weekend retreat. It's a descent. It takes courage to look inward and not flinch. To ask, what have I been running from? What truth have I been too afraid to admit? Who might I become if I stopped pretending? This is where growth stops looking pretty. It's messy. It's emotional. It often feels like falling apart. But here's what Jung knew that most of us forget. The shadow is not your enemy. It's your uninvited teacher. It's the missing half of your story. And when you stop running from it, something incredible happens. You start to feel whole. Not perfect. Not polished. But real. And that's when transformation truly begins. Individuation. Becoming your authentic self. Once you've looked into the mirror and faced what hides beneath the surface, once you've dared to question the life you've built and the identity you've worn, there's no turning back. But what now? Jung gave this process a name, a word that sounds almost mystical but points to the most personal journey you'll ever take. He called it individuation, not individualism. This isn't about becoming separate from others or chasing some ego-fueled idea of uniqueness. Individuation is about becoming whole. It's about integrating every piece of who you are, the persona you show, the shadow you hide, the hopes you've forgotten, and the pain you've buried, into one coherent, authentic self. It's not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you already are underneath the conditioning, the expectations, and the noise. It's about alignment. But here's the truth. Individuation isn't easy, and it doesn't happen all at once. It's a slow, often painful peeling away of the false layers, the roles you never chose, the goals you never questioned, the scripts you never wrote. It begins the moment you ask, what is true for me, really true? Who am I when no one is watching? What have I been silencing in order to be accepted? You start to notice when your words don't match your values, when your habits betray your desires, when your yes is really a no. You may realize that the life you thought you wanted no longer fits. And that's terrifying because it means change, real change, not surface-level tweaking, but deep, identity-shifting transformation. And yet, it's also liberating. You stop chasing the approval of a world that never really saw you. You stop living by default. You stop hiding from your own voice. Individuation demands that you own your life, all of it. Not just the highlights, not just the polished moments, but the mistakes, the regrets, the wounds, the missed chances. It's the radical act of saying, this is my story, and I'm ready to live it with my eyes open. You may start to let go of things. A toxic job, an outdated friendship, a version of yourself that made everyone else comfortable except you. And in their place, something new begins to grow. Not louder, not flashier, but truer. Maybe it's a calling you once ignored, a truth you once buried, a love you once felt unworthy of. This journey doesn't promise happiness every day. It promises wholeness. And there's a peace that comes from no longer pretending. Jung believed that individuation is the second half of life's purpose, the real half. Because the first half, that was survival, construction, learning the rules. But this is about writing your own. It's not for everyone. Most people will settle for the mask. But if you've made it this far, you're already on the path. One choice at a time, one honest moment at a time, you're becoming more you than ever before. Rebuilding and living with purpose, the new horizon. Now that you've shed the false layers, the personas, the facades, the masks you once wore, what comes next? After the storm of transformation, there's a moment of stillness. And in that silence, a profound realization dawns. You don't need to rebuild yourself from scratch. You don't need to become someone else. You don't need to mimic the lives of those around you or chase someone else's idea of success. You only need to reconnect with who you've always been beneath the surface. But here's where it gets real. Rebuilding isn't about quick fixes. It's not about snapping your fingers and magically feeling whole. No, it's about daily choices. It's about cultivating a life that honors your true values instead of continuing to follow a script written by others. It's a long, sometimes quiet journey toward alignment. And in this journey, something starts to shift. You begin to realize that what you've been looking for, the peace, the purpose, the authenticity, isn't a destination. It's a process. And the more you commit to being true to yourself, the more life begins to respond. So where do you start? You start by reevaluating everything, from the relationships you keep, to the career path you follow, to the way you spend your precious time. What once seemed like non-negotiables, your daily routine, your obligations, your shoulds, start to fade. In their place, a new clarity arises. You realize that some of the things you've been pursuing no longer resonate. That job you've been grinding for, does it still light you up? That circle of friends, do they support who you're becoming? You may even realize that you've been living in the shadow of others' expectations. You were trying to meet their dreams. You were playing their game. And now, as you stand at this crossroads of self-discovery, you ask yourself the hard question. What do I want? What does my version of fulfillment look like? This is where individuation becomes real. This is where you start making choices that are no longer about pleasing others or following society's definition of success. It's not about a sudden, dramatic change. Sometimes it's the little things. The walk you take to reconnect with nature, the conversations where you speak your truth even when uncomfortable, the choice to finally pursue that creative passion. But rebuilding also means letting go. You have to let go of the version of yourself you thought you should be. You have to shed the need for approval. You may have to leave behind old relationships, habits, or goals that no longer serve you. And yet, in these moments of release, there is a profound sense of freedom. Because as you let go, you make space for what truly matters. You open up to the possibility of becoming someone who is authentic, not perfect, someone who is whole, not just acceptable. Rebuilding doesn't mean erasing the past. It means embracing it. It means weaving together all the parts of yourself, the successes, the failures, the wisdom, and the pain into a story that finally makes sense. And in that story, you're no longer just the sum of your achievements or your mistakes. You are a living, breathing whole. What follows is a quiet but powerful shift in how you view the world. The external demands that once seemed so urgent start to fade. What was once important, impressing others, gaining accolades, accumulating things, loses its grip. You begin to notice what's truly valuable, the connections you nurture, the passion you pursue, the moments of inner peace you've longed for. And as you rebuild from the inside out, you realize this: it was never about getting it right. It was about becoming you. And in the process, you create a life that's not just lived, it's lived authentically. The new horizon, living fully and authentically. The moment you've been waiting for, the new horizon. This is where you emerge from the depths of transformation, standing taller, grounded, and ready to step into the life you are meant to live. But before you take that step, let's pause. This isn't the end of your journey. It's just the beginning of something more fulfilling, fully accessible once you've let go of the need to conform to the world's expectations. As you step into this new chapter, realize that the horizon isn't a fixed point. It's a moving target, constantly evolving. While the first half of life may have been about building and achieving, the second half is about living fully and authentically. This is where you begin to create a life that feels like it fits you. And here's the beauty. The more you embrace your true self, the more everything starts to align. The draining job feels like a calling. Transactional relationships become genuine. Superficial pursuits fade, replaced by deep connection to what truly matters. Don't mistake this for perfection. The new horizon isn't about a flawless life. It's about constantly evolving, letting go, and moving towards a more authentic expression of who you are. So, how do you navigate? Start by letting go of illusions about life being perfect or neat. You've shed your persona, faced your shadow, and rebuilt from the inside out. Now, allow yourself to live in the mess, the beauty, and the imperfection of being truly human. As you step into this new phase, you'll notice something powerful. You begin to focus less on doing and more on being. You'll stop measuring your worth by achievement and start valuing the experience of living. It's no longer about performing for others, but about creating a life that makes you feel deeply alive, fulfilled, and connected to your purpose. And this isn't just about you. The more you embrace your authenticity, the more you give others permission to do the same. You create deeper, more meaningful connections, relationships based on genuine acceptance, not role-playing. Your true self becomes a lighthouse for your own life and for others still searching. What's exciting here is that as you approach the new horizon, many things you thought you wanted in youth, accolades, titles, perfect relationships, no longer hold the same weight. You may desire something quieter, infinitely more fulfilling. Maybe it's that trip, that creative project, reconnecting with an old passion, or simply being present in small moments. This is the true gift, not a grand achievement, but the quiet satisfaction of living in alignment with your true self. And while this journey can feel lonely, there's an undeniable peace from realizing you're no longer playing someone else's game. You've found your own. As you embrace the new horizon, you trust the journey more. You stop chasing external markers of success and measure life by alignment with purpose. And in that alignment, you find joy, fulfillment, and true freedom. You've made it. After shedding false identities and facing your shadow, you're now at the final stage, living with purpose. For Carl Jung, purpose isn't about external achievements, but about aligning with your deepest self. It's fluid, evolving, not a final destination. Goals shift from societal validation to personal fulfillment. Every decision, relationship, and action now reflects this purpose. Life feels more effortless, not because challenges disappear, but because you're aligned. This alignment creates freedom, pressure to conform lifts. Living with purpose also means embracing the unknown. It's being comfortable with uncertainty, knowing transformation happens even in doubt. It's not perfect, there will be discomfort and fear. But these emotions no longer hold you back. The more you embrace change, the more you become who you're truly meant to be. Transformation is not about becoming someone new, it's about uncovering the person you've always been. When you live with purpose, your impact on the world shifts. It's no longer about grand accomplishments, but about being present and authentic. By doing so, you inspire others to do the same, creating a ripple effect. In the end, living with purpose is realizing that you are enough. You don't need to be anything more than who you are right now. By embracing your truth, you create a life that feels fulfilling and whole. And this is where the journey truly begins. What part of this journey resonates most with you? Are you at a point of recognizing the persona, facing your shadow, or stepping into your authentic purpose? Share your thoughts and reflections. The conversation, like the journey of self-discovery, is ongoing.